So let's go ahead and get rolling. A couple things first. We need to time and date stamp this. We are going to be going over some market information, some financial unemployment, GDP information. So if someone's watching this in a week and what we're saying today is completely ridiculous, that's why we want to time and date stamp this. So it is May 1st, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time. The other part is a very big thank you to Keeping Current Matters and everybody over there, Steve Harney and the crew. A lot of the research and the graphics are directly from them. The methodology that we're going to be talking about today, it's very simple. We're always looking for long-term and reliable resources for market information and the analysis as well as the science behind it. The logos in the lower right, those are just some of the resources that we're using. So this is not opinion. This isn't what I feel. No one cares what I feel. Everybody cares about numbers. All right. So the disclaimers up front, nobody can give you perfect advice. If anyone tries to do that or tells you they are, run from them and run quickly. Number 2, this is what we're seeing taking place in the real world. Number 3, this is what the science has to say. Based on all that, I'm going to give you the best advice that I possibly can. All right, so let's talk recession and recovery. Okay, let's kind of transition a little bit. There's a lot of stuff going on in the news about what type of recession this is, and it tends to change depending on who you're talking to and what time of day they're talking. So in reality, if you talk to somebody who is classically trained in economics or finance, there are 3 types of recessions: the V, the U, and the L. If you listen to the news, we have the check mark, the W, the tick, the flying W, the U, the V, and the Nike swoosh. This is literally people making things up as they're going because they simply are trying to explain what they're seeing. They're trying to explain what their opinions are, and we end up with new terms, okay? So the tennis balls on the right-hand side kind of give you an idea. The V-shaped recovery would be a brand new tennis ball. You drop it on the ground, it's going to bounce right back up. It's wonderful. The U-shape is one that you've played with for maybe a month or 2. You can still drop it on the ground. It's just not going to spring back up as quickly. The L-shaped, you drop it on the ground, and it basically just rolls away from you. All right, so when it comes to the terminology, it's all over the place. All right, so here's what I would tell you. Classical definition-wise, the V-shaped recovery is one that has a very rapid drop to the bottom. It has a very well-defined trough, and then it has an equally rapid or more rapid ascent back into the recovery world, okay? A U-shape, by definition, does not drop as rapidly. We're not having a U-shaped recovery, by definition. If you want to talk about the W is an extended funky U, basically, all right? And we most certainly have not had it. We are not going to have an L-shaped recession. That's basically what we had in 2008. It dropped straight down and then just plateaued, all right? So what is the data? What's the science have to say about this? What do some of the true financial experts have to say? This is an updated graph from last week. Talking about GDP projections. So these are the major financial institutions: Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo is added in there. Just to give you guys an idea, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley manage over 1.7 trillion, with a T, dollars for the wealthiest people in the world. If they get this wrong, how many hundreds of billions do they not manage anymore? Right? So when these institutions put this information out, I would have to go if it's pretty reasonable. All right. So the new numbers did come in for Q1 earlier this week, negative 4.8. It was a little lower than everybody thought it was going to be. Okay, that's where we are. So remember the definition from last week of a recession: 2 consecutive quarters. We now have 1 consecutive quarter. Q2 doesn't end until the end of July. It's going to be the end of August before we get the data to formally say we're in a recession. Are we functionally in one? Yes, we are. All right. So what is it going to look like? Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo are all predicting the V. All right. So they're expecting or predicting this very rapid drop to the bottom in Q2 and a very rapid recovery. Last week, I would have told you Q3, Q4. At this point, I'm going to tell you it's somewhere in the second half of Q2. Or I'm sorry, second half of 2020. All right. It is really going to depend on all 50 states. Right? If half the country turns back on, the other half doesn't, that's a scenario. Right? If everybody comes back online, different scenario. But this is what the major financial institutions have been predicting, and they still are. All right, that's good news. So here's why nobody has a very good answer to this. Right? there's three types of science that we have to take into consideration. Business science, meaning how has the economy rebounded from similar shutdowns in the past. Health science, meaning when will COVID-19 be under control? When is there going to be a vaccine? What is that going to look like? Is there going to be a second wave, right? The third one is the social science. That's after the businesses are operational. How long will it take American consumers to return to their normal consumption patterns, right? So I want to talk about that for a second, all right? On May 8th, we're going to get the next unemployment report where we're really going to know what industries lost jobs, right? We had one that I put up last week that was from April 3rd that was only dealing with the first 700,000 of what is now over 30 million people, right? So it is absolutely not indicative. It was roughly 60% in the service industry, food and drink, all right? So let's think of a restaurant that you guys like to go to that's in your hometown, that's down the street from you, that is shut down and they don't have business going on right now. They might be doing takeout, delivery. When they open back up, we know it's going to be at a lower capacity. We also know that in San Diego, if I want to go eat dinner and I want to get into a restaurant without much of an issue, I go before 6 o'clock and I'm good. If I go after 6, I'm going to wait. If I go after 7, I'm going to have a few drinks. And if after 8 o'clock, I'm going to be hanging out for a while, right? I think as these businesses start to open, I think that you're going to see a lot more people going to dinner at 5 o'clock. I think you're going to see a lot of restaurants staying open until midnight because they can now serve people dinner from 10 to midnight. So I think you're going to see the same type or same volume of business. I think it's just going to be extended over longer hours. That would just be one example of the social science, but we don't know. We have no idea. We know that some of the businesses, like Philippe was saying with the home inspection companies, they're not coming back. Right. And that's heartbreaking. That's a shame. Right. And those of you out there that are business owners, you can feel that. Right. But that's where we're at. So these are the three different types of science that has to be taken into consideration when we're trying to figure out what's going on. Right. So 3 quotes for you. Zillow, during epidemics such as the 1918 influenza, that was the Spanish flu, 2003 with SARS, economic activity fell sharply during the epidemic but snapped back quickly. Right. John Burns Consulting, historical analysis showed that pandemics are usually V-shaped, sharp recessions that recover quickly to provide little damage to home prices. You have the Harvard Business Review saying V-shapes monopolize the empirical landscapes of prior shocks, including SARS, the Hong Kong flu, the Spanish flu, and then the H2N2, which I'm drawing a blank on what that name was. But you got these 3 institutions all saying V-shape, all right? So continuing along with that, this is Sam Cotter, chief economist with Freddie Mac. Right? I would say that that's a pretty good resource to listen to. And what he had to say is, although the uncertainty of the crisis means forecasts of economic activity are more unclear than usual, we expect that most of the economic damage from the virus will be contained to the first half of the year. Going forward, we should see a strong recovery starting in the second half of 2020. All right, so that's Freddie Mac. For those of you that don't know, they have something to do with mortgages. Right? That's a little sarcasm there. Here's CNBC. Right? Evidence is mounting that home buyers are coming back to the market after demand plummeted in the past month due to the coronavirus. Ladies and gentlemen, people need to buy and sell homes. People want to buy and sell homes. Right? We have a whole lot of want that's pent up right now. The need is what's taking place. Right? So what does the science have to say? Right? We need to understand the answer to these 2 questions, right? What's going to be the depth of the unemployment and what is going to be the length of the unemployment, right? So this is the comparing it to the Great Recession, right? And actually, we're going to go back to the Great Depression too, right? There's a lot of people like this, 2008 all over again, oh my God, right? So let's see if that's the case. Taking a look at the current unemployment rates compared to past financial crises, here's the Great Depression, right? We know it was 12 years long, 1930 to 35, there's your unemployment rates. Right? 8.7, 15.9, 25% in 1933. That is a lot of depth. That's a lot of people, and it was long. It was 12 years. When we look at the Great Recession, it was approximately 9 years or so. From 2009 to 11 were the worst, right? And we're basically saying 8% is that limit. We're saying anything greater than 8%, and it's Houston, we got a big problem, all right? So 2009, 10, and 11, 9.9, 9.3, 8.5. Not a ton of depth there, right? We're barely hitting 10% rounding up, right? In the Great Depression, people would have loved 10%. Would have been wonderful for them, right? So we don't have the depth. We do have the length, 9 years. So what about the projections for COVID? Here you go. 2020, 15%. 2021, 6 to 8%. 2022, 5%. 2023, 4%. This is from Goldman Sachs. All right. Is there death? Oh, yeah. 15% is big. We got 30 million Americans who would like to be working. They were working a month and a half ago. They can't work now. So here's a little bit of a better graphical representation. Death going up and down on the y-axis, length on the x-axis, left to right. There's the Great Recession, 25%. You can see the depth, you can see the length. There's the Great Recession, 10%. That's COVID. Fill it in for you for a little more perspective. Does 15% suck? Yeah, absolutely. Right? Is it 25%? Nope, it's not. What this is basically saying is that 80 to 85% of the country is still working. They're still out there moving the economy down the road. All right. So what does all that mean for us? Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows. That's how we're seeing economists make up terms for recessions. Here's a good example for you. Dr. Fauci can't tell us when this is going to come to an end. He's on TV every single day, maybe not morning and night anymore, but he's not hiding from the fact that he can't give us perfect advice. He's giving us the best advice he has. Same thing with Dr. Birx, who's up there. So based on what we see, what we know, and what the science says, we're expecting that very sharp drop down to the bottom somewhere in Q2, April, May, June. We know that the economy is going to come skyrocketing back second half of the year into 2021. All right. That's what we got right now for the kind of the economy, the recession, GDP.